Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Kashif Booth podcast. If you're new here, each week I sit down with a guest and we discuss their career so far, the highs, the lows, and what's next for them. Today's guest is Yasmin Godo. She is a writer director from London and is a former first AD extraordinaire, but she had to leave that to the side to just flourish in her talent, which she's doing now. So we'll get into that. But welcome to the show, Yasmin.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm happy to have you on. I mean, we have known each other for a long time, but we
Mm,
didn't actually meet until like maybe 3 years ago. Because
right.
you know how it is, it's like social media. Oh, you're doing stuff. Let me just follow you. And that was it. And then I was producing this short film with Bluebird Pictures because I was like a freelance producer with them called Cycle. And Joelle David, who's amazing director, she's doing so well right now. Like she really wanted you as a first AD. So I was like, oh, Yasmin, cool. And then I remember we first met each other on the Ricky and I was like, hey, finally. And it was great working with you in that space. I was like, I've always heard such great things about you. And then to see it in action, I was like, okay, yeah. Yeah, it's nice when you hear something great and the person really just fulfills that, like what you've heard, all the good things. So it was good to have you on, and here we are today.
You spoil me. Sorry, I'm really distracted. You've got such a beautiful smile.
Oh my God, stop it.
You've got such a lovely smile.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you. Just listen. I mean, yeah, Joelle is a whole champion in and of itself. Like, and I know, Cycle, I guess, went on to support some of the other incredible stuff she's doing across like Queenie and Dreaming Whilst Black. So yeah, it was definitely a really really nice honor to be able to kind of join the gaps that COVID and pandemic period. I think it created a volume of work that meant so many more Black creatives actually got to come together. I think it felt like a little bit of a vacuum for a long time where we know that there's more of us, but we don't know where to find the rest of us. And like social media is cool, but then it's like, all right, cool, we know each other, but then how do we then create the work to be able to actually come together and see how each other
Mhm.
works and see how each other maneuvers, and champion each other more. So yeah, I'm glad that finally came
Yeah.
to pass. And then we also got to sit down and meet in Cannes this year. That was dope. That was
Yes,
a really, really
yes.
good time. You were definitely one of the highlights of the trip for me. So yeah.
Cannes was great. Cannes was a great time. I think because I interviewed Chiridu, one of your really good friends, on the podcast as well. And like, because he's been before, I said to him, like, you know what, like, I was hesitant to go to Cannes. And we spoke
Mm.
about this because Cannes is always just this grand thing. So I was like, listen, I need to go when I have like £10,000 in my pocket.
Money, the
Like
oh, really,
literally.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking everyone's like it's so expensive and do. So when we got there, I'm like, we live in London. This ain't nothing new to us. Like to me, it is really different
Mm,
from being if we were just in the hub of central London all the time. Felt like
yes, yes, it's
to
very,
me,
very, yeah, that central
yeah.
London vibe is very strong.
Hmm.
I do
Yeah.
think, I feel like, so from what I've understood is
Hmm.
the most expensive part of that trip for any one person is
Yeah.
your accommodation, which,
Hmm.
we kind of had sorted out. And
Hmm.
then just food. I think from an attire perspective, there was so much reading that I did. There was so much pressure because
Hmm.
between the blogs, the articles, like talking to people that've already gone versus people
Hmm.
who are like very much part and parcel of that whole system and that whole machine,
Hmm.
it really makes you feel like, oh God, I couldn't possibly, I need to have unlimited funds of
Yeah.
all
Hmm.
of the things, and even down to attire. Like everything that I read made it seem like it was a black tie
Yeah.
extraordinary event across every possible function. And it's like, no, I think as long as you're kind of smart cash or somewhat business cash to a degree, one, it makes it a lot easier to segue in certain conversations. But outside of that, like, just come as you are.
Yeah.
Just come as you are, and bring yourself. But yeah, exhaustion was real after that trip. The non-stop of it all.
Listen,
Yay.
listen, yeah. Because I spoke to Saru afterwards as well, because she was out there, both a producer we both are working with. And it's like she said that is common. It's like everyone after they come back from Cannes, they all have this like fever or flu that they need to overcome a
Mm,
week after. And I think it's because you're literally meeting so many people all day, every day. It just is
mm,
non-stop. So it's like you're interacting with so many people. And you know how some people are. they don't wash their hands. So you're shaking hands and people sneezing, coughing, and all this. And this is why COVID spread like it did. But anyway, that's another conversation. So yeah. Because listen, side note, I did what? Two, including cycle, I did about 3 or 4 projects during peak COVID and with predominantly black crew. And all I'll say is nobody got COVID on my sets. So I'll leave that there. Anyway, so yeah, so and I think it's just a thing what happens, but it's like you're not just sick, but also you've been on a high, you know? And I think after I came back from Cannes, it was just non-stop. I don't know what happened, but it's just like so busy. It's like the industry had been so slow, but then I was able to feel more inspired to kind of go outside the norm of what I was doing, like venturing into theater and all different kind of stuff. I was like, okay, let's see where we can go. And then the rest of the year just became very busy in that space. So I think that's what was great. And I want to go back again, hopefully next.
Yeah, same, same. I really want to go back. I think knowing what I know now, like there isn't necessarily too much that I would do differently, but I think the level of preparedness that was told to be for said trip, you have to really, really be in your zone in terms of just having like either having your scripts, having your financial plan, having your outcomes ready so that if that conversation aligns, because it is a place where it's not just film, it's the business side of film.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was actually talking to my friend yesterday, who is really, really phenomenal documentary maker, like filmmaker, producer, director, and he was speaking about things that would fall into the landscape of going to Canada, had never been before and didn't really know how it kind of all works. And I feel like one of the things that I'm so grateful that definitely like both you and I got to go is Cannes for me just felt like this really prestigious thing, this organism that just felt so far away and so expensive that it was an aspirational thing that I just never bothered looked into because I just thought I'm
Same.
just never going to get to go. I'm never going
Same.
to have that kind of disposable income where I'm not worried about my rent, that I can just blow real cash on just this experience for a week and then come back like, hey, my purse, where's, and there's nothing but moths just flying out. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think
Yeah, yeah.
going and in the way that it all happened, I'm grateful because for knowing me and knowing who I am, I'm always going to prioritize making sure, okay, the council tax is paid, the bills are paid, there's food in the fridge. I need travel money to go to here, there, and everywhere. Like, there's so many other things that the things that we aspire to, it ends up slowly, slowly falling so far down in the to-do list that you can't even see it anymore.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
far down there. Do you know what I mean? So I was really grateful that I got that experience to go. And actually, I think one of the things that was really affirming for me, and it will seem silly, is I, when you gave me a really beautiful introduction, by the way, but former first AD, like there's been little odd sprinklings of jobs that I've like done for friends and here and there since that time. But I don't think I had a really firm understanding of maybe the regard in which I am held in this industry until I went on that trip. I think there have been a number of jobs in which I have, from being candid, I have felt a little bit invalidated and not really respected warmly. Like people were fond of me, but maybe that respect wasn't necessarily there. At least that's how I felt. And so going to Cannes and like meeting so many of our Black British scene, very highly esteemed creatives at that. And like even people that I wasn't familiar, and I'd introduce myself to people and was like, oh my God, I've reached out to you to work before, da da da, and like being really taken aback in a really positive way, like, whoa, clearly whatever I thought the landscape was or within myself versus how people perceive me or how people in the regard in which people hold me were two different things. And that trip actually forced me to really start acknowledging the things that I've done. I think I'm from a family of workaholics. And so I don't think I'm very guilty of not always spending enough time in the moment and celebrating and actually taking stock of the things that I've done before it's like, all right, on to the next, because I know where I'm trying to get to and where I am right now isn't there. And so I think part and parcel of that has meant for not really spending any time at all celebrating. I wouldn't even say celebrating too long. I just don't really celebrate. I don't think it's really allowed me to take stock of where I've been at. But then I think also I know I'm probably a little bit more chill than I was, but I know I'm somebody that I really am very vocal in giving people their flowers. And I think there is something to be said in our industry that sometimes we are not always very good at doing that for our peers. Do you know what I mean? Unless it's underneath a post in which somebody is actively celebrating something, we're not always the greatest at telling our peoples that, no, I really like that thing that you did, or that piece of work that was really powerful, or, wow, how did that even come to pass? Like, I think we do need to spend a bit more time like giving each other our props, when we think someone's done something well. Because I think the nature of not just our industry, but I think most industries in general, is that it can sometimes inadvertently feel a little bit crabs in a barrel when it's not supposed to be, because we're always mindful of competition. We're always mindful that, this might be my peer, but if there's a job going up, we're both going for it. There isn't really a job for everybody. It's not, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
100%.
sometimes that maybe impedes on people being vocal about how they feel about one another, and really speaking to just celebrate when we think someone's done well, even if there isn't a thing to celebrate, just telling someone just cause. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely affirmed me in a way that I'm very grateful for, and it's kind of made me lean a little bit more into like, you ate there.
I love that. And it's funny, I was having a conversation with my friend about that as well, because for me, I've always noticed that I will champion people, or if I see something, I will like share that opportunity with somebody who I know can benefit from it or is going to
Mm,
do for it.
heavy in that
And I
word.
think sometimes it's like you start to compare yourself and be like, well, okay, well, everyone else is starting to, blow up. What about me? And blah, blah, blah. But then
That
I've
part,
really grown to understand that like what is for you will be for you. So it doesn't take away your light or your purpose because you're helping somebody else to be
yes,
on their path, because that is what's aligned for them. That's God's plan for them, and God has his plan for you.
a word,
So
a word.
why are you even getting upset? Like, so it doesn't take anything away from me from pouring into somebody and celebrating their wins, because who am I to be jealous? That's it. You know what I mean? What do
Real.
I have to be jealous of?
Mm,
Seriously,
mm,
like Elizabeth Rafai, and she just won.
mm.
I saw her on Thursday, and I haven't seen her for years, and I was like so happy to see her because I'm so proud of everything what she's been doing. I've known her for years, right? Yeah, I'm happy to see you win. A black woman with her sister killing it right now, and where's the space of that? Why would I be upset that she's now on in a certain space? What's that doing for me? Do you get what I mean? And I'm so happy that they poured into you like that because you deserve it. Because for me, sometimes I get paranoid. Like I hear, I'm like, whoa, whoa, what do you mean you've heard of
Mm,
me? Especially certain demographics of people. I'm like, so who told you this? Because you never know who's speaking
mm.
about you in certain type of way. But then I am shocked sometimes, like how far and wide your name moves in rooms, even if
Listen,
people don't reach out
that
to you. Yeah,
this
honestly.
year, this past
Mhm.
year in particular, I think there's a part of me that's always known, but I don't think I truly internalize the extent to how far that can really go. And I
Mhm.
think in any vein, with especially in this industry, like your reputation like precedes you in any facet.
Mhm.
And I think we all want to be the best version of ourselves. We all want to be, um, you know, comporting ourselves in a way where we're projecting nothing but excellence. But sometimes we're going to have an off day. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Sometimes despite want to bring 110%, we just ain't got it. And I think it's okay to allow ourselves to have that space to be like, not in a space of excellence, and just doing the best that you can, and letting that be comfortable to be enough. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think there's something to be said about really celebrating our peers. Like one of my very good friends, and I will shout him out all day, Stephen Olubenga and Ratem, who is also first AD, former, well, I say former, transitioning away from first AD, but like the most incredible writer and director. And we spend so much time every couple months, like calling each other or sending each other, like, yo, I can't believe you. Listen, what? Another banger. Just snapped it. Like, and our whole thing is just iron sharpens iron. Like,
Mm.
and if I'm being real, like, it's, I think there's probably a world in which it's strange because neither one of us had said to each other that we wanted to put down ADing and really go hard with directing. We never had that conversation with one another. It just so happened to kind of be at a similar time. And so when we were both working across our respective short films, like again, it was just we didn't really have a conversation. It wasn't that we were keeping a secret from one another. It was just
Mm.
kind of, yeah, we were sending each other scripts to read, like, can you give me some notes on this, etc., etc. And then it was kind of a, oh snap, you made this? Oh, you kept that one back. All right, I see you, but this is hard. Like, do you know what I mean? It's inviting each other to each other's screenings. It's like we sit down and we'll grab a little food or grab a little drink because we live quite near to each other as well. And you know, it's that thing of championing one another, but also there is that not even competitive element of like I want to do better than you, but it's like it forces me to actually stay the course because I think sometimes extenuating circumstances and like external factors can distract us and it can throw us off our axis. And I feel like comparison, as you were saying earlier, like it really can be the thief of joy. And if we don't allow ourselves to have a reason to be locked in, there's so many different things that can make us start looking inwards for the wrong reasons. And that's not what our purpose is. That's not what we're called for. Like
Yeah.
we're not called to walk in the spirit of self-doubt. Like we're called to just walk in
Amen.
our purpose and be
Hmm.
whatever it is that we're supposed to be. And I think the most difficult thing about that in the first place is just learning, all right, what is that? What is that in the first place? What is the thing I'm meant to be doing? And then just going out and doing it.
100%. I love that. It's true because when you have that purpose and you know your purpose, you're just following yourself. Because the only person you should be in competition with is yourself. I
Mm,
want to do better. I want to make sure the last project I did is better than the last one,
mm.
And that's how it is. So I want to get back to you slightly. So how did you get into first ADing and then transitioning? Well, when was the moment where you was like, you know what, I've had enough of this. I actually want to write direct. Like, what was that like? Because you've been on so many first ADing like credits, your IMDb is stacked. Okay, you've been across everything from films to music videos, and not nah, not your hood music videos. I'm talking like Little
No,
Mix.
no.
Hey,
Listen, I've had the baptism of fire. I've done my fair share of hood
I'm
things.
sure.
Like, listen, we've done everything, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We've really had
Mhm.
to earn our stripes here. Next year marks 10 years in this industry, so it's been a long time. It's been a
Amazing.
really long time. Well, interestingly, first ADM was something that happened quite incidentally. That wasn't my plan. I had always wanted to enter the industry to write. So going back, I went to university and I did a broadcast media foundation degree. I did that at Brighton University, but my campus was in Hastings. I'm not even going to get into the how and why because I still don't know how and why. But
Ooh.
it was interesting. It was very I can't even say rural. Hastings at that time was just very, it was a seaside town where you went to retire. You know, I was one of maybe five Black people just, not even just on my campus, like in the whole radius of what Hastings is, maybe a couple other Black folks sprinkled here and there. So going back to Brighton was the only time that I got to be around other people that looked and sounded like that, like us. That was actually my age. That was even my age mates. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, right, so that was
yeah.
interesting in and of itself, and it was a respite and it was a break, but it was also like it refined exactly what I knew I wanted, which was to be around culture, to be around our culture, should I say, because you
Mhm.
know folks still have their culture. It's just not something that was calling to my spirit at that time. And
Mhm.
so uni, I felt like I wanted to lean into the radio side of things, and within radio was where I was in my spare time writing a lot of like radio plays, because I at that time wanted to do a lot of voice acting, um, and so I would be voicing a lot of the characters myself. But that was the thing that was kind of strengthening the scripts and the writing arm of things before I kind of put down radio. I was like, no, writing has always been the one constant from childhood till present. And so 2014, 2015, like I was entering a lot of writing competitions. Like Nickelodeon used to have like this annual competition for like comedy
Yes,
scripts,
I
like
remember
comedy
that.
scripts and stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So I was applying to stuff like that, and one of which they had this spec writing competition going at the same time in the UK and in the States, and silly me had managed to it was strange as well because they basically had like the same website, but just with a .co.uk and a .com at the end at the exact same time. So I sent one of my spec script all the way to the States, not knowing that actually it was the wrong competition. They were like, "Oh no, you're not eligible here, but we're gonna try and FedEx this back to the UK and hope that it gets there in time."
Mm.
So I ended up hand delivering my script to the UK arm, but I was really, really steadfast at that point that no, I want to write. This is something I'm adamant I want to do. Sorry, there's context to that story for a reason. It was just like I was very hungry to not keep sleeping on myself.
Mm.
And so 2015, I bumped into a young person that used to be one of the mentees on my youth session when I was doing youth work some years prior, Terrell Williams, who went on
Oh
to
my gosh,
write
Terrell.
Heritage.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so Terrell and I had like we'd reconnected at that time, and he was just at the beginning of his writing career. And so it was just like, look, there's a lot of writing workshops and theatre things going on. Like this is the space that I want to be in. You're trying to write as well. Let's connect. So we were sharing resources with one another, and then he sent me a link for a scheme at the BFI, which was a Legacy Media Institute, and that was run by Tim Reed, who used to play Tim Campbell in Sister Sister, who used to play, I
I
think,
remember that too.
Ian.
See, we've been
Very
around.
bad.
See, we're showing our age. We've been around for a long time.
A while, a while, a while, a while, a while. And
Mhm.
so they asked for like examples of like writing and short film stuff that we had done. And at that time, it was like, well, I haven't really got the opportunity to make anything. I had done some stuff with some of the young people that I worked with before, but it was nothing I had written. So I sent the spec script that I had written for this Nickelodeon pitch that ended up randomly in the States. And I sent a link to a TED talk that I had done at the time because I had to write that as well. And I think it was like a 13-minute talk, and we had to go on a story with it. And he watched that and he absolutely loved it. And so I got to be on the course. And then lo and behold, I met our dear friend Terrell there as well. I was like, you didn't tell me that you applied also. So that was really cool. And then what effectively happened is along that journey, we weren't a very cohesive group. I want to say there was like 10 or 12 of us. And it was kind of that thing where most people are quite new to filmmaking, or if they have had experience making films, it's kind of been smaller independent things. So what tends to happen with any group work exercise is either everybody wanted to be the director, or everyone wanted to be the screenwriter, or
Mm.
everybody potentially wanted to be like the DOP and camera op. But all
Mm.
the other little intricacies, like, okay, who's going to produce this? Who's going to first AD? Who's even going to edit this? There was
Mm.
just not that cohesion. And for me,
Mm.
like I had to really fight tooth and nail at that time to get time off work. They wouldn't grant me my annual leave. Like I had annual leave entitlement, but they were just like, nah, sorry, this comes first. So I effectively called in sick and was like, look, I've paid money to be here and I've had to lie to my work to get here. I don't care how this is made. We're making something because this cannot be in vain.
Mhm.
Um, and so they basically got us to write like a couple spec ideas, and within the group, it was between Terrell and myself as the two strongest ideas that were picked from the wider group. And probably unbeknownst to Terrell, Tim had pulled me aside quietly and was like, "Look, you have got a really strong structural energy about you. Like you seem to lead the group really well. I think you'll make a really phenomenal first AD." And in all the ways that I was really taken aback by that, at that point, I was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, what even is a first? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I
Mm.
wasn't paying attention to that part in my uni course. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, my
Yeah, yeah,
head was
yeah.
focused on writing and radio at that time. So,
Mm.
I was like, I was quietly devastated, if I'm honest with you, because I thought, wow, like, I've paid money to be here. This has been something that imposter syndrome has been battering me before. I've finally taken the leap. And, this guy is saying, take yourself out of the running when everyone's saying, no, you guys are the top two.
Mm.
And I went home. I had a little bit of a cry, and then it was like, no, you're tougher than this. Like, suck it up. Like, the fact is, Tim is somebody you have grown up on your television watching, like with your family. So if he's saying he sees something in you, maybe lean into that, and maybe the writing side of things can come. And the reality is, if you don't do this, then where will that structure come from for us to even get the film made in the first place? So
Mm.
I took one for the team and I said, all right, cool, I'll do it. So I first did our short film. So we used my good friend Rodney's her mum's house at the time. And we had Kayode Owumi on our short film, who also used to be one of the young people on my youth session alongside Terrell. And
Wow.
so I always knew, even from them, that they were really, really close, really just beautiful brotherhood that they shared. And so he came and he acted in that. And then shortly off the back of doing said workshop, I think that then inspired them to then go on and write hood documentaries. So they wrote
Wow.
and made that on a budget. So yeah, it all kind of like worked
Mhm.
out in a really nice way. And I think what ADing allowed me to do was I then, sorry, this has been a really lengthy story, but
I
I
love it.
I then went on to do an internship at Luti Media, where I obviously had the BFI short film underneath my belt. So there was a independent film festival at the end of that. So we made said short film within a 2 week span, which is absolutely unheard of because we know how to make a short.
Listen, I've done
Within, listen,
it.
the quickest turnaround known to man. It was ridiculous. But yeah, at the
Yeah.
end of that 2 weeks, we showed that at the end of the African Odyssey Film Festival, which was pretty cool. And so nothing else really came of that short film beyond that. Tim was very much like, look, enter it into some film festivals and let's see. But I didn't have the first clue of how to even go about any of that stuff. So it
Mm,
kind of got left there. But it was an experience that put a fire under me that
yeah.
I went back to work and I was miserable. I was like, now I've tasted what film is, and to be in that space at South Bank, and South Bank Centre is one of my favorite places in the world. It was like I can't go back to just sitting behind a desk because I was just scanning people in and out of a building. Do you know what I mean? Like, and even the
Yeah.
people in the building were like, "You're not meant to be here."
Mm,
Every day, like they were really championing me, but they were just like, "Honey, you're really wasting your talent here. You need to go and be doing something else." And so I gave myself, I think it was a month and a half, 2 months to find an internship. And within that time, I ended up at Luti Media. And so they brought me on. It was a 6 or 7 week period. It wasn't paid, it was expenses. And they had me just across as many of their shoots as I could muster. But I was doing a lot of back end stuff, like from certain back end website bits and pieces, like looking across treatments from some of the directors that were already on their
mm,
roster. Helping to not necessarily directly produce anything, but just kind of helping out in the office. And they had me ADing a lot of shoots. So one of the first ever shoots that I did with them as like a taster day was I was a runner on a visual album for The Dream,
mm,
American R&B artist The Dream.
mm.
They had me first AD a comeback music video for Skunk and Nancy, which is like, right, I've grown up on TV watching these guys. This is incredible.
Yeah.
So there were quite a lot of things that I got to do whilst I was there. And though Luti did offer me a job off the back of said internship, like I graciously declined because it was like, no, I still want to find my feet. Being a production assistant, I know is definitely not what I want to do. Like I've already put writing somewhat on the back burner and I'm
Mhm.
ADing this stuff. But actually,
Mhm.
what ADing allowed me to do, and I didn't realize the blessing in the time, is that working alongside so many other directors, producers, writers allowed me to see what makes a set, what it is to connect with these people. Because I think at that time, if I had just solely been writing and then there was nothing else, I wouldn't have known how to connect with all of these various other people. Like
Right.
for screenwriting with Philip Shelley existed, but it was also very competitive. You know, you had to be the creme de la creme and a very higher upper echelon of talent to be able to, excuse me, get onto that program, etc. So ADing secretly gave me another way in whilst building my list of contacts and also absorbing a lot of information and just learning. And so, yeah, to answer your original question, when did I kind of decide if I wanted to just pack it in? I think because I always knew that I didn't want to AD. ADing was something that I fell into. It
Mhm.
was always a thing that at some point I was going to have to make a decision. And I think the choice kind of inadvertently found me when it was like, I, at the beginning of the pandemic, I don't even remember what the shoot was like, but I literally, it was just an awful shoot. I remember coming home feeling so deflated. I was like, I'm tired of feeling like this. Like I'm underappreciated. I feel like the token. I'm over it. Rah. And I had said, I had literally said to God, like, I quit. I don't want to do this no more, man. This is dead. And literally, no sooner had that happened. How did this? I want to make sure I'm telling this story correctly. I had done a shoot. I had done a film for a short film Fiona Lamptey produced, and the director Nadia Latif had responded to a tweet from Femi Okumelo.
Oh, yes, yes,
Okumelo, yeah, yeah.
yes,
She
yes,
put
yes.
out a tweet and was like, "Are there really no black first ADs around? Because what is happening? Like, she got commissioned to do something finally for TV, and I guess she wanted to make sure that she was leveling the playing field. And for
Mm,
whatever reason, it was just a real difficulty. And Nadia quote tweeted and at me, and
right.
the way my phone blew up that day was obscene. Like, I think I gained something like 150 or 200 followers, like, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but for me, whose account was more or less dormant, like, I didn't understand what was going on. All of a sudden, what's your email? My phone, my emails were blowing. Like, all of the bigger productions, the TV
Mm,
broadcast, the feature films that I
mm,
had been working painstakingly for 6, 7 years, that
mm,
applying for things and getting turned down. All of a sudden, everybody was calling my phone. Everybody was calling
mm,
my phone, and this was me trying to put down AD and that. Now I'm finally going to direct, but I
mm.
think that was the final stage that I had to go through,
Yeah.
and I think that was even actually part and parcel as to how we ended up coming to meet, because there was a whole it blew open that door of
Mm,
contacts and connections that I had been hoping to get towards, but for whatever reason, just
mhm.
always seemed to be just one step away from getting into those doors.
Right.
And working on those productions and working very tirelessly was so eye-opening for me, and like the budgets that we actually can be afforded, and the type of talent that works across them, and the type of talent that's even booked to be in front of camera,
Hmm.
that it made me feel really passionate and emboldened to finally take that step into directing. And I
Mm,
knew I knew I was already tired, but like I gave it another couple more years and just said, you know what, I think it's time. So I saw a random acts call out, because one of the things I've always done in my spare time, although I haven't been doing it as much of recent, I've been very good at like trawling the back end of like the BBC Writers Room website, the Channel 4 website, like all these different websites. They've got these call outs, but they're hidden so deep in their website that if you don't
listen.
know to look, you will never
Hmm.
find it. You will
Nope.
never find it, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, and so the back end of this Christmas, like I had come out of a relationship that was quite heavy. And so I was just really focused on, I just want to write, I just want to really spend time and just kind of purge this energy into something productive. And so when digging around and saw this random acts call out hidden in the deeper crevices of this website, and they were like, yeah, deadline is January something or other. So I just spent that Christmas time formulating the idea for a script. They wanted a one pager of a treatment, and they wanted the ideas to be set in the 80s to celebrate Channel 4's 40th anniversary that year. So this was 2022.
Mm.
And literally, my eyes lit up, because I've always wanted to do things that are period pieces, but not like your Renaissance, like stuff that fall within like 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s. That's me. That's my happy place. Like even stuff in the 50s.
Yeah.
So yes, things from the last century basically are stuff that I like to play around with. And so I applied, and then I think it was 2 weeks before they got back to me and were like, "We loved your idea. We were successful." And so I think that was the thing
Amazing.
that kind of solidified
Hmm.
Cover Direct. Because there had actually been times before then where people had called me to say, "Yeah, we want you to do this thing or another thing," and direct it, but it always fell through, like
Yeah.
always. And so I think that
Mhm.
was the point where the frustration had built, was like, it's enough, I'm tired of the doubt. So yeah, that kind of forced me to write and direct, and just say, you know what, it's time now. You can afford to let this thing go and make peace with letting it go.
I love
Yeah,
that.
that's soliloquy.
Honestly, that is my favorite question to ask everyone who comes on my show. I love hearing everyone's journey. We end up finding out about each other through the work we make. And then you see, oh, this is great work. Let me follow this person. Let me stay, put a note to work with them later on down the line. But to hear someone's journey is always my favorite part, because hearing your journey was so great, and hearing your journey from okay, how you got into the industry and where you are now is great to hear. And I think Tim Reed, let me tell you something, Sister Sister is like one of my favorite shows. Grew up on that.
Mm,
I can write a whole dissertation, and I probably am, about how good Sister Sister is and how the writing of that is underrated, but that's a whole nother conversation.
mm,
But one thing I will say where he went wrong and when he what he said to you was that, and something we probably know now as being more of a veteran senior in this industry now, is that you could have still pursued your writing, but learned that first ADing is something I'm good at, but that can pay bills. But writing is my passion, which will eventually pay my bills. Do you get what I mean? And people don't, multiple streams of income is what people need to start pushing out more to creatives, that we are creatives, but we're also good at multiple different things. Do you get what I'm saying? And that's where people go wrong, because the industry, people in the industry have told you, you're good at this. Okay, so you should work all your way up to get to that. But they don't realize that like we're humans as well. So we're gonna change our mind, we're gonna have new experiences, we're gonna be we have different interests as well, so that's going to lean us into different things, and it's fine for us to explore all facets of who we are within the industry. And that's something I fell into doing. I've been everywhere. Okay, unscripted, scripted, media operations, advertising. Now I'm in theater a bit, and I'm all over the place, and I
I
was
see
like,
you doing bits. Come on.
thank you. But it's like
Yeah.
when I saw it, it's like I didn't, that wasn't the plan. I just wanted to write. But then I've kind of just like fell into so many different things, and I like it because I know so much about the industry, and I always know I can get work wherever I want. Do you get what I mean? And that's how it is. Like people don't tell you that. They don't tell you the reality of how it is working in this industry, where you're living invoice to invoice. You don't know when your next job is going to be because you're thrown into being freelance, unless you stay in-house and you get them cushy production jobs. But production, anyone can do production. Anyone
Where
can.
they at?
Yeah, anyone can do, anyone can do
Yeah.
that. And I think it's so good to just see your trajectory of where you are now. So, for people who are organized, love to be on set and don't want to be like stuck in an office, what would you say, as your experience as a first AD, what would you say are the skills to be a good first AD, and what are the and also what makes a first AD from not just being good at your job, but knowing how to be personable? What are like some of the key elements like that? Because people don't understand the difference. Because there's some first ADs who you work with and they're like, oh, you're just a bitch, you know? And then there's some who are like, okay, I see where you switch it up. But then there's some people who are just like, eh. So like, what would you say is the overall skills to be a good one?
Um, I think in part you kind of answered some of the question, really.
Mm,
I think you have to have an element of that in your personality anyway. Like
mhm,
there are certain things that cannot be taught, and I think empathy is something you cannot teach someone. It's either you have it or you don't,
mhm,
and you can become a bit more attuned and become a bit softer. But to have empathy, I think, is something that allows it differentiates between the good and the great. And there are some people that I've come across from runners who immediately I'm like, there is something really, really powerful
mhm,
about you. I really want to take you under my wing. Let's go, and
mhm,
bringing them into shoots as and when, I had shoots to be able to say, yeah, come to this, or, in my
mhm,
absence, I'll put you forward for this. There was something that last week I was dire, like my health was on the ropes, but yeah, I couldn't keep anything down. And there
mhm,
was a young woman who AD who was going to be my third on a shoot across the next couple of days, and for a friend that in the absence of me doing it because I just didn't feel like I wasn't feeling strong enough to do that job to the optimum in which I know it
right.
needs to be done, and especially that's a first time director, needing to have the capacity to have all my eyes and ears about me, because said director is not going to have that second sense just yet because they're
Yeah.
still learning on the job. Is where
Mhm,
it's like, look, if I'm not at 100%, I'm not going to come into your shoot and let you down. But
mhm,
this young lady in particular, whose name is also Yasmin, um, I absolutely adore, and she is the perfect example of what it is to have that
mhm,
empathy, to have those personal skills. Who is somebody
mhm.
who's funny, but is also knows when it's time to work and is
Yeah.
very astute. And so I just happily said, look, in my absence, please consider this person as your first
Mhm.
AD,
Yeah.
because I know that she will run this shoot the way it needs to be run, that she is, very empathetic, but she's also really astute. And I think having initiative is a really important part of being a good AD or being a strong AD. Having the foresight to say, I can foresee a couple steps ahead in the road, that if this isn't addressed, that this is going to be a problem and this is what's going to impact us on time. I think
Mhm.
a lot of the things, like I worked on something about a month ago now, with an AD whom I hadn't worked with before. It was a self-funded production funded by the DP, and he had come and brought on a lot of the crew, and they're all really lovely. Majority of them are students, and this individual was. I could see somebody that was really, really passionate about wanting to be a really good first AD, and had all of the makings potentially. But I think the thing that had been missed is that actually just barking timings at people is not what makes a good AD. Finishing the day on time alone is not what makes a good AD. Because if you finish the day on time but you haven't got majority of your shot, then you've got nothing. Then we haven't the key is in the title is assistant director. You are assisting to allow all of the elements of the shoot to come together so that the director can actually create, so that everybody can come together. If your director is very much tunnel vision on what needs to be done here, or they just need quiet to figure out, all right, this element isn't working, this thing here needs to be fixed, then the AD needs to help facilitate an environment that can create that sense of quiet or that sense of structure, force the director to do what they need to do to get that visual piece over the line. And the timekeeping is the element that everybody focuses on, but that's almost oversimplifying it, because just keeping time, I mean, we can all watch the clock. I think what is a necessity to making the day run forward is communication. You are the central hub as the AD for everybody on that set, from the lighting department to your camera department to production design to your sound recorders to even the cast. Like, every piece of information is filtered through you. And if you're not communicating and you don't have the empathy to listen to people rather than just barking at them and shutting them down, no one is going to want to work faster or more efficiently for the benefit of the team, not just for you, the benefit of the team. Like, understanding as an AD that you are only as good as your team, or as good as the weakest person on your team, is also something to bear in mind. Is that if you can see that, all right, everybody else knows to work quickly, but for whatever reason, the people who are across costume and hair have got a real nightmare of a task ahead of them, because these are really intricate looks, and the hair and makeup, it just takes the time that it takes. Then you have to be the person to say, all right, to give you the time that you need, I need to push my director to work quicker. I need to push the lighting and camera department to set up quicker, so that gives them a little bit more time to play around in that area. That if we finish these elements quickly, then I can give that little bit of extra time to these people that need it more over here. Because it's not that they're the weakest link, it's just that they have a few more moving pieces of the puzzle to facilitate, or it might be that for whatever reason, the cast is maybe a little bit challenging. They might be a little bit challenging to work with. And so because they've got very specific requirements and needs, that they are only going to move in a particular facet if they feel like their needs are met. So it's like, all right, speaking to your runner team, speaking to your other AD department to ensure this person, if they need their coffee with the very specific milk, let's make sure we've got the coffee with the very specific milk. Let's make sure we're giving them frequent check-ins. Like, it doesn't even matter if it gets to the point it's annoying. I'd rather they over accommodate and they feel comfortable to the point it's like, I'm so comfortable it almost feels like, get away from me, than they're sitting in the corner with their throat dry, they're pissed off, and now because no one gave a damn about their special coffee with the special milk, suddenly they're not doing what they need to do, and everyone's having a terrible day. And it's like, well, where did we fall short? Because somebody wasn't paying attention to where's the coffee with the special milk. And it sounds ridiculous, but that's it. But that's what it is. We all have our comfort food. We all have our things that help us move forward.
100%.
And I think understanding that, and I guess maybe a part of it is psychology. I don't know. I think understanding people's body language is definitely something that helped me. Is I would generally be able to tell within the first 15, 20 minutes of the day whether it was going to be a day we finished on time or not, or whether it was going to be some foolishness. And some of that from the pre-production, I would be able to tell the day before, or whenever, just based on people's communication styles and seeing where the breakdowns of communication tends to fall, even on jobs where I've not been able to do it and I've handed it over to somebody else for whatever reason. And it's like, you can generally tell how people are going to maneuver, and you can tell the ones where everyone's super on it because they're really eager to get home. And I think the one I'm not someone that likes to frame neurodivergence as a superpower, but I think the one benefit to me being neurodivergent, I am both hyperactive and inattentive type ADHD, is I hate things dragging out from the
Mm.
time that is necessary. It's wonderful to me.
Yeah.
Like I hate meetings that drag on for too long. I
Mm.
can't, my body, I want to flight. I want to get BF ASAP.
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
I think because
Mm.
of that, that's been a benefit to me. Is like, all right, it's one thing when you know we just haven't got the shot yet. That I have patience for. But when it's like we've got the shot 3, 4 times over, enough. We need to move on. Like
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
knowing what to say, again, being observant by communicating, by understanding what that
Mm-hmm.
production needs. That's
Mm.
what takes a good AD. And I think sometimes the people who maybe are a bit of an acquired taste, who might not be very pleasant to work with, let's say that.
Mm.
Sometimes they're just fed up. And I get it. I personally wouldn't want to run a shoot like that, but I do understand it. And
Okay, that's
I,
fair. That's fair.
listen, no, do you know what it is? I think fear, if you come to work and someone's
Yeah.
lambasting you and they're barking at you and they're talking to you like you're a piece of shit, like,
Mm.
where on earth, if you want me to fight you, cool, let's go. But if you're actually expecting me to work efficiently for you, I
Yeah,
don't respond well to certain things. So
yeah,
for me,
yeah.
if I know I don't even respond well to that, why am I going to come to work and start talking to you like you're an idiot? It doesn't
Mm.
make any sense.
Mm.
Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
respect people's personal work ethic and
yeah,
choices, but
yeah, yeah.
that hasn't worked for me
Mm.
personally. So
Mm.
big up that.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you for sharing. Because I've been dipping my toe into first aiding as well. As I said, in
Mm,
terms of income, so I've been shadowing and learning, and people have said, "No, you'd be good." So it's been good to understand it because, like I said, I just like I said about what Tim Reed said to you is like it's yeah, people have strengths in all different facets of who they are. Doesn't mean that they need to focus on one particular thing, you know.
mm,
And there's also a thing as being an organized creative. They exist,
mm,
you know, they
mm,
exist. So one
mm.
thing I do want to say now is that you are a multi-award winning writer director now with Unfit to Work, you know. So how does it feel for you to have stepped into your writing and directing, work with Channel 4? So what was it like doing that, and how is it now being in that space of you really walking in that purpose of who you were inside?
Long and short of it is that
Yeah.
I'm feeling incredibly proud. Like I had a plan for what I wanted Unfit to Work to do, and although we didn't fall into that specific plan, because from when we stepped off set, I knew there was just certain shots that I just didn't get because
Mm,
the day didn't allow for it for various reasons. Um, but it still did incredibly well within the short film circuit that I couldn't have imagined. And I am grateful because I think there's only maybe five, I think it was either 4 or 5 film festivals that I applied for in total because, listen, my pocket was broke. Yeah, film festivals and applying for them is not
then
cheap. It's
it's
not
not
cheap again.
none of
Um,
it, guys. If you know, you know.
Listen, however, there's a number of film festivals that headhunted us and found us off the back of them being screened at other places. Like, uh, so the fact that it went to the States for Superfest Disabilities Fest, which were BAFTA qualifying, was definitely a highlight. I think one of the things that I've enjoyed the most is not even necessarily the award per se. It's been the conversations that it started and the people that it's allowed for me to connect with and meet. Superfest Disabilities Festival was such an eye-opening experience for me that I'm so gutted I didn't. Now I know I'm gonna
Mm,
make sure I crowdfund so that more of my peoples can come with because
mm,
having a space where it's just wall to wall people of every type of disability or ability you can think of was like a very grounding experience. And that's not something that we even shed light on. Having a building that was something as simple as them sending an email in the morning to say, can we please make sure that nobody wears any like over excessive colognes because there are some people's disabilities where they have sensory challenges and
mhm,
that some of those smells can create migraines or create a headache. And it's
mhm.
having that care and attention to detail that I have just not seen here. It's very ableist in the UK if we're being 100%. And so making a film that
Yeah.
was to highlight that and then having people come and be like, this spoke to me, or I watched it with my mum. A shoot I ended up
Mm,
on that I AD'd. I think it was the production assistant. I'd never met her before. Found out actually she's cousins of a very good friend of mine, which was always a nice serendipitous moment.
Yeah.
But like,
Hmm.
she, the costume designer, Jodie Simone Powell, who I absolutely adore, was like, "Oh yeah, Yaz has done a short film. Like, big up yourself." And so they're like, "Oh, talk about it. Like, tell us, tell us." And so I mentioned the name, and a production assistant was like, "Wait, was it fit to work? I'm fit to work." I'm like, yeah. It's like, oh my God, me and my boyfriend watched it, like we loved it, da da da. And it's like there's been so many moments like that. I've been randomly out in a rave, and a friend who listened to someone's podcast came and found me and was like, I watched the film and I really loved it and it resonated with X, Y, and Z. So the film festival side of it has just created a little bit more of a platform to have those conversations.
Right.
And that's what we make. That's what we make content for. That's what we make film for.
Mhm.
Is to speak to people. We hope that it will do the thing that we want it to do. We hope
Mhm.
that it will touch somebody in a way.
Mhm.
And I was using that as a form of catharsis from a breakup. And because, you know, my mum has a chronic illness, my ex-partner had a chronic illness, it was me speaking to some of those lived experiences. I never in my wildest dreams thought that some of the conversations that came from it would occur. So it's just created a really beautiful tangent that I'm really proud of.
And I'm proud of you for doing it. I just love seeing people step into their purpose and then achieve so much success. That's why I think where people have been pouring into because we've known about you for such a long time, and to see you step into that lane is great. Like I said, I'm rooting for everybody black. So everyone's shining and doing their thing. I love it.
Right.
So we are running close out of time, but I'd love to know like where can people find you so they can stay connected with you, and where can they find like Unfit to Work as well to watch?
So you can find me on it's not even it is well, Instagram. My name Yasmin.Godo, so YASMIN full stop GODO. My Twitter that I will be changing at some point is currently Yazzie Presents YAZZYPRESENTS. My email is the same. Unfit to Work you can find across YouTube and on Channel 4 on demand. And yeah, there's a couple other bits and pieces dropping the end of this month. Something's dropping next week. So there'll be
Amazing.
more things to kind of have a look at online and hopefully launch my website as well with some stuff so people can look there too.
Well, Yasmin, it has been such an honor having you on. I knew it'd be a great conversation, and I hope everyone listening has been inspired. And guys, you can follow me on my usual socials. You know them, there's a bunch of them. Stay tuned for new episodes coming soon.